So what is difference between maceration and percolation? Maceration, it is used both for organized and unorganized drugs, drugs having definite shape and drugs do not having definite shape. It is a lengthy process in which 7 to 14 days of the time is required. Colloidal particles, they are observant in the filtrate. It is a very slow process. In modified maceration, it is divided into double and triple maceration, and menstrual loss is maximum. It is used for the soluble solutes preferably, and active substances they diffuse out to the menstruum. For example, senna, cardamom, and cascara. Percolation it is preferred for organized drugs having definite shapes like leaves, roots, stem, and the time required for this process is 2 to 3 days, which means it is a very quick process. It is a very fast process as compared to maceration. Colloidal particles they are not observant in the filtrate due to the high efficient filler bed, and as I told you earlier that it is a quick process, PD process. It is modified into reserved percolation and continuous hot percolation, and loss of menstruum it is very less in it. It is preferred for hard crude drugs, and for example hard crude drugs it is preferred, and menstruum is percolated adjacent to the crude drug, and it displaces the active substance, and liquid extract of licorice is the example for it. Difference between maceration and infusion. Maceration, the menstruum uses alcohol, but aqueous menstruum it can also be used. Maceration is a long process. It takes up to 2 to 7 days. This process is conducted at room temperature, and mark is pressed after maceration, and except in modified maceration in which mark is not pressed and the volume is not made up at the end in simple maceration, but the adjustment of the volume is made up in the modified maceration. Infusion, it is done with cold or boiling water as a menstruum, and the drug is made in contact with menstruum only for 15 minutes, so it is a quick process. This process may or may not be conducted at room temperature, so there is a flexibility regarding the temperature. Mark is not pressed, and volume is not made in infusion process. What are tinctures? Tinctures are alcoholic or hydroalcoholic preparations or solutions of chemicals or soluble constituents of vegetable drugs. So basically, alcoholic means tinctures are alcoholic, having either they are totally alcoholic or hydroalcoholic, which means a combination of alcohol and water. So these are solutions of chemicals, or you can say soluble constituents of the vegetable drugs, or you can say these are the solutions of active constituents or biologically active compounds or active constituents from the plant source or from the vegetables, from the herbs, from the weeds. So these tinctures they have different concentration. For example, 50% concentration for those prepared from the potent drugs, and 10% concentration. It means that for the 50%, those prepared from the potent drugs are usually 10% in strength, which means 100 ml of the tincture has the activity of the 10 gram of the drug. So the tinctures they have a different concentration. It could be 50% or it could be 10%. For those which are prepared from the potent drug, potent means strong drugs having the strong activity, they are usually 10% in strength. For example, 100 ml of the tincture, it has the activity of the 10 gram of the drug. So tinctures are very much stable, and the alcohol content of the official tinctures it can vary from 17% to 21% in case of opium tincture USP, and 74% to 80% for compound benzoin tincture USP. So the alcohol content it varies in tinctures. Most tinctures are prepared by extraction process of maceration and percolation. So these are the methods. These both are the methods which are commonly used for the preparation of tinctures, and these methods are maceration and percolation. The selection of the solvent or menstruum it depends on the solubility of the active ingredient or the active constituents which are present in the drug. The tinctures they have a disadvantage, and that is precipitation. Precipitation of the inactive constituents of tinctures it occurs over the period of time. That is called aging. For example, if a tincture is made and after say a time of 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, precipitation occurs in that tincture due to the inactive constituents which are present in the tincture. To prevent that precipitation, glycerin is added to the hydroalcoholic solvent to increase the solubility of the active constituents and reduce the precipitation on storage. So there is the remedy for the precipitation, that glycerin is added, and by the addition of the glycerin, the active constituents they will be solubilized in the solvent, and what happens, the precipitation will not occur if the tincture is stored for a long period of time. Tinctures must be stored in a tightly stopped bottles, and they should be kept away from the high temperatures, and they should be otherwise if they are exposed to the high temperatures, their constituents they may degrade. Their active constituents may degrade. Their potency may decrease, and they may undergo a photochemical change when they are exposed to light. So the tinctures they must be stored in umber colored bottles or light resistant containers. They should be tightly stopped because they contain alcohol in it, and alcohol is volatile. It may evaporate, so they should be tightly stored in a tightly closed containers. Maceration. Tinctures are prepared by maceration process. In this process, the drugs they are divided into a small part, and then the menstruum is placed on it. And what happens? The large portion of the soluble constituents, and they cannot be packed uniformly in the percolator. So, in the maceration process, what happens? Suitable drugs which contain the large portion of the soluble constituents, and they cannot be packed uniformly in percolators. So, those drugs which could not be packed in the percolator uniformly, those drugs are extracted with the procedure of maceration, and those drugs which have high content or high quantity of the constituents, they are they are extracted with the help of the maceration process. And the method is this: the solid material or the drug it is chopped off into small pieces, and then whole of the menstruum is placed, and it is these two are the drug and the menstruum. They are placed together in a vessel which is covered, and they are allowed to stand for 7 days. Shaking is done occasionally. Strained, they are strained. The mark is pressed, and the liquid is obtained are mixed, and it is clarified by the filtration process. The examples are capsicum tincture and cinchona tincture. So capsicum tincture, what happens in it?